My name is Drea Codispoti, and I'm the director of Top Echelon Network. And I'm in my 19th year of working here at Top Echelon. 17 of those years have been in charge of this great placement, the great split placement network of Top Echelon. What I want to share with you today is really some fundamental concepts of what Top Echelon is, and just some areas that I think are extremely important, but fundamental, but also foundational. If you apply what we're talking about today to your actions in Top Echelon Network and possibly other areas, it could serve you very well. But in order to set the tone, what I'd like to start with is creating some definition to what Top Echelon is. So the question is, what is Top Echelon Network? Is it a software? Well, sure, I'm sure that when you joined, you had some preconceived idea of what it was. And maybe now, after you've been in here for a few years, or maybe even a couple weeks, you have this different perspective. But in my experience, what I have found that it works best is describing it, and what I drive to push it to work as is a community. And it's a community of vetted recruiters who are all working a small to medium-sized desk. And the experience range here is from 1 to 50 plus years. So you can imagine the demographic of all those individuals and who they are and how they do things. Some are just learning a little bit of the things that really are going to make them great, and probably going to screw up here and there, just as we all do as we're learning. Some of those who are set in their ways and have been doing this a long time have a set path, and they know what works for them. And all of those people are a part of this community. The other side of this is that it is accompanied by this live database of shared jobs given to the members directly from their clients. We also have this growing database of 8 million candidates that the members have opted into sharing for the convenience of your fellow Top Echelon Network members. Just as a note, 4 million of those candidates are less than 3 years old. But in a system, you know, in a community, the people are here to do one certain thing, which is it is a place for the members while working their full desk. They're sharing these candidates and jobs, hoping to become the hero of their clients. Because you might take, without getting down into too much of the grit, you might only fill so many of the jobs that you take in a period of time. Sharing them to the network hedges your bets on getting help from other recruiters to fill them, so that you can be the hero to your clients. But it is also it's a place that contains data and is loaded with opportunity. And the better quality of the data that you contribute, the better quality of the results that you will yield. But in any great community, we always have to have what we refer to as pillars, right? With the pillars of the community. We've heard that in how many stories in old movies. But at Top Echelon, we have defined those pillars, and they have been our pillars for decades. Quality, trust, active participation, and regular communication. But today in this series, I want to focus in this webinar in the beginning of the series, I want to focus on quality, because I think everything starts with that. But what is quality? At first in this day and age, it can be something that's very watered down. Everything is awesome to everyone, when really it isn't. Some people are just so easily impressed, or were programmed to reply with such responses as awesome. But what is the definition? The definition of quality is the standards of something as measured against other things of a similar kind, the degree of excellence of something. Now, maybe I'm telling you all things that you're thinking, yes, I know this, Drea. But there's a reason that I have to start here at the definition level and the fundamental foundational level of this, because it helps build what we're going to progress with today. What does quality look like in top echelon? Well, let's I have this quote here from Enzo Ferrari. I'm sure that we all know who he is. But he says, I want to make every car, he said, I want to make every car that bears my name a work of art. And I think that that concept and that philosophy is why his name is a household name across the world. And so by taking that concept of everything that he does and everything that we do when we submit things and how we work and how we do things, if we have that concept of that definition of quality in those efforts, we can make a difference in who we are and how we're remembered with our partners and with the people that we live with and work with and associate with. But what does the quality look like in top echelon network? These are the main pieces here that I could start with as far as items that are very important to consider where you're placing that quality. Your recruiter profile, your agency profile. Some of you might not even know that you have an agency profile. The jobs you share, the candidates you submit, the level of communication, and of course, your professionalism. Having a good recruiter profile seems like such a simple thing. And you're like, Drea, why are we even talking about this? Well, I'm talking about this because many people do not take care of their profiles in this network. Some who do are probably the more, I would say, the more well-known or active members, because they know that it's important. They know that it's vital to have a very rich profile in top echelon. When someone calls you and introduces themselves to you, or when you do that to them, the first thing that a member who's experienced in this top echelon network is going to do is they're going to go and look at your profile. And if there's nothing there, there's not a good photo, or there's no photo at all, and it doesn't demonstrate who you are, and you're not sharing any information, they're going to be very milquetoast or very uninterested in proceeding with you, because you haven't taken the time for the 5 minutes that it takes to build a good quality profile, to put that effort forth. So putting quality in that smallest of an area is a very big deal. Your agency profile is the same. Who you are, who are your recruiters? What does your agency completely focus on? What are the other areas? If you're an agency owner, you should encourage and maybe direct them to all have a very full profile in top echelon, as they represent you as an agency owner. What defines you? And in any profile, whether it's your agency profile or your recruiter profile, filling in that information as much as possible brings more points of commonality, which is very important. Because when someone goes to look at your profile and they see in detail what you do and who you are, and a lot of that has a lot to do with them, they're going to be very much interested in working with you as a partner, because they already have identified pieces of who you are as the same as what they are. Your shared jobs. When you're putting the job orders into the network, starting off mainly with the job description, tell the story of what your client is seeking. Don't put one sentence in there or 2 sentences. Actually, it's less than, you can't put anything less than 500 characters in there. However, that's still not enough. Don't say my client is looking for a launch engineer who's familiar with automotive. That doesn't tell me the story. That doesn't tell me, the recruiter who wants to work on that position, enough information that makes me interested in sinking the teeth in, because you haven't even taken the time enough to take a good job order from your client and then share it with us. And segueing into that, don't cut and paste the client from the client's website or an email they send you the job description in. Make it your own, so it has an identity. Also, we want to share good fillable jobs with good fees. You want to bring to the table quality information and quality jobs that people will say, yes, I want to work with that person because when I look at their jobs, they are very well put together. And because of that, I can identify them as someone who would be a good partner because of how much time they took into putting information out there to share so that I could see it and make a decision on whether I can take time to help them with that. Share jobs with clients who respond to you, right? We want to make sure that we're not wasting anyone's time. So when someone calls to work your job and they reach out to you, you want to be able to say, this is a client that I have a very good relationship with, because it should be only that answer, not this is a client that doesn't really call me back often. Well, because if that's the case, then why am I even going to bother spending time hunting for candidates for you? Also, when you're sharing your jobs, make sure you have full guarantee information and payment details. All that stuff is extremely important, particularly for your partners who are going to make a decision on where they're going to spend their time. For the exporters, when you're submitting candidates, ask yourself these questions. Did you read and understand the details of the job? This is extremely important. We all know that, but really, did you? Or did you just see the title and a few key words? Take the time to read through the job description and understand it, hoping that that job recruiter actually put a very good story, a description of the job in there for you to read. When you go to submit candidates, if this was your client and they were giving you this job, would you submit the candidate that you're about to send through? Also, what percentage of a match do you honestly think that that candidate is in comparison to what description is there, the bullet points that are there? Are they all 10, or are you trying to shoehorn somebody in? In desperate times, which sometimes there, we have economic issues and we're in the market, like some are feeling right now, and that brings desperation. But don't let that desperation change your level of quality on what you're going to submit to your partners. In fact, it should increase the level of quality of what you submit to your partners and how you work with them. Only give them the best. And again, I'll reiterate it. Did you read and understand the details of the job? That is not a repeat or a duplication. I put that in there on purpose because that is extremely important. Now let's talk about communication, increasing your quality of communication as an exporter. When you call another member, leave your name and state that you are a fellow Top Echelon Network member, because if you don't, you're just another person that's calling them to work a job, and then they're wondering, well, where did they see the job? Because maybe I have it on my website, because I'm using Top Echelon's ATS and I post the jobs to my, so who is this person? Identify yourself. Also state the job in which you're calling to work. If you leave a voicemail, follow up with an email. Use the system to work the job and submit the quality candidates, as we mentioned earlier. And if you have not heard back from them right away, follow up the next day. Remember, everyone in this network, for the most part, is a small business owner. The average agency size here is 2.5 recruiters per office. So what that means is that recruiter is their own marketing person. They're doing their own sourcing. They're doing business development. They're doing their own invoicing. They're doing all the client calls and the scheduling of the interviews. So they might be a little busy, just like you should be. So give them a chance to get back with you. But if you don't hear back, call them, leave a voicemail, follow up with an email. Very simple tasks. Increase your quality of the communication as the importer, right? This is the job recruiter. When you call another member to leave your name, state that you are a fellow team member. Can you see a pattern here? State the job that the call is in regards to, because you possibly are calling them back in regards, to the voicemail that they left you. And if they're calling and leaving voicemails for other recruiters, you want to identify yourself, because you might be the 10th recruiter that they called yesterday to work their job. So identify yourself. And again, follow up with an email. And particularly importers and anyone really, call your partners back within a reasonable time. Follow up with an email if you leave the voicemail. And again, I'll reiterate, call your partners back. It's just a professional courtesy. Gild all of your efforts and your actions with quality. Everything that you do in this network, or everything that you do, period, is it the best that you could possibly deliver? Because if you don't have time to do it right the first time, you sure don't have time to do it the second time or the third time, because sometimes you don't get that second chance. What about that one person? There's always that one member who never calls me back or never responds to me. What am I supposed to do? Well, let's always look at ourselves before we answer that question. Check the quality of your messages, your candidate submittals. What are you asking of them? Do your actions align with the quality as we've discussed today, or do they align with any level of quality? If they don't, eventually that recruiter might end up on an island all by themselves talking to a volleyball, wondering why no one's calling them back. So in short, everything that you do, every level of communication that you have in this network with people, every submission of information to the network, to the community, whether it's a job, whether it's a post in the discussion forum, it's a candidate submittal, make sure that it is of good quality. Take your time to just, before you hit that submit button, to say, yeah, this is what I want representing my name, because as often as you do that, that level of quality will set the pace and the tone for what everyone else sees that you produce in this network. Another thing that everyone should really understand are the policies. Take some time to look them up. They're on the main dashboard. Go through them and read them, because understanding the rules of engagement in this network will make you a better player, and you'll understand a more in-depth knowledge of how to deal with quality here. So now I'm going to, this is the first of the 4 or 5 series of the Great Expectations here. I want to thank you all for listening. I'm going to go ahead and open things up for questions if there are any. No questions yet. I must have really been clear about everything. All right, one is, when do we alert you if someone is non-responsive? That's a very good question. I get that from time to time. And again, I kind of addressed that a little bit in there as a, check yourself. Are you reaching out to them with the right information? Are you giving them a really good reason to call you back? Because remember, they're very busy. But if you feel that you're doing those things and you've made those efforts, I don't mind an email or a phone call saying, hey, I'd really like to connect with this person, but for some reason they're missing out. And I'll tell you, in my experience, almost pushing 2 decades here, what I have found is that, when I reach out to that person, there is always something that has prohibited them, and it wasn't a matter of they just don't want to participate with you, or they don't want to engage, because life gets in the way sometimes. So never hesitate, but give them a chance to, in a reasonable amount of time, to call you back. What happens, here's a good question here. What happens with the cases that recruiters just focus on the resume and not on the notes you send? Well, so consider this. I'm guessing that this is a question from the candidate submission side, the exporter side. When a recruiter is receiving resumes and they're checking their pipeline and they're looking at everything that's coming to them, there is going to be they have to just make these very quick decisions because of the volume that they might be receiving information. And keep this in mind, that they probably, I would say, want to fill that job just as badly as you do, because it's their client and it's their backside on the line. So if they're interested in your candidate, right, that, first of all, the resume should be, as up to date as possible. And if they're interested in your candidate, they are going to make that move and move forward with that candidate. If not, because they might see something in that resume that really doesn't attract them to make them a match for their client's position, and they're just going to move on to the next. So in spite of the fact that there might be additional notes, if those notes are including things that aren't in the resume, perhaps get back with that candidate before you submit it and say, we need to put these things in your resume because it doesn't say anything about these skills and this experience that you're talking about, because we need to capture my partner's attention, because that recruiter might receive 20 resumes a day just for that one job. What else we have here? Here we go. Got to read through this little teeny tiny window here. We've been posting jobs on the network for several months. And to my knowledge, we are getting no candidates from the network. Do we need to go get companies in the network and ask them to work on our jobs? You shouldn't have to. But in cases like that, again, what is it? Are the jobs that are out there, do they have the right information? And are you giving everyone the story that they need to make the decision? And if they are, and you're not getting any heat, as we say, give River or myself a call. We'll find you people to work with, because there are people looking to work jobs right now. That's why we have emails and phones. You're welcome. All right. Is there a way to eventually be able to add our feedback to a resume that is submitted? Not at this time, but that is something that be a very good feature to add to the system. And while I have the attention of everyone, when you have ideas, software ideas, and you think that this will be beneficial and an advantage to not just yourself, but to the entire network, practically speaking, send the idea written out in format of how you would do it to feedback@topechelon.com, because we all look at that information. So think those ideas through, because that's a very good one. We have heard that before. All right, I believe that is all of our questions. All right, thank you so much for taking some time out of your afternoon today. And don't forget to register for the convention. It will be a fantastic experience of networking and software training. And we have Scott Love as our speaker, which I'm very excited about. He's going to bring to the table some great client development and business development ideas and things that are really going to change how you're operating and augment the skills that you already have. Thank you so much, and have a fantastic day. We'll see you in Florida.